We live in a universe that is remarkably fine-tuned for life, and specifically for living creatures like us. Now, this itself is highly remarkable. It's like saying that if you want a certain type of music, you need to have a certain type of instrument. The music produced by a piano differs from a music produced by, say, a violin. And so God made the universe this way in order to have, at the end of the process, creatures emerge like us. Now, this is a real problem for people who deny the existence of God. If you want to deny the fine-tuner, then you have to come up with some other explanation for the fine-tuned universe. How do you get a fine-tuned violin without a violin guy who made it that way? Well, the scientists have come up with an ingenious alternative, and that is the idea of multiple universes. So not one universe, but many. Now, the interesting thing about multiple universes is that if these universes do exist, and we'll come to the question of how would we know if they do, if these universes do exist, they would have different laws than the laws of this universe. Now, why is that? It's for the obvious reason that the laws of our universe describe the objects and relationships between the objects inside of our universe. The laws that we talk about as the laws of nature are the property of our universe. So we have, for example, Newton's inverse square law. But if there's another universe, it wouldn't have Newton's inverse square law. It could well have an inverse cube law or some other kind of law. So in fact, some scientists believe that under conditions of true infinity, in other words, there are so many universes, a virtual infinity of them, and if that is the case, a big if, you would expect every physical condition, every possible arrangement of matter and energy to be realized. In other words, to put it somewhat crudely, everything that can happen would happen. Now, in this remarkable situation, the scientists say, we can now, in this scenario, in this imagined constellation of universes, we can now kind of explain how we got our universe. As there are an infinite number of universes, it's possible that one particular universe turned up that has the particular arrangement that ours does, and a universe that happens to be fine-tuned for life, but there's an infinite number of other universes out there that are not fine-tuned for life, that have other arrangements, and if they have any other kind of creatures in them, they're radically, unimaginably different from what we are like. Now, there are many versions of this so-called multiple universe theory. I'm not going to go into this in detail, even though it makes for fascinating reading if you have a kind of layman's interest in this kind of thing. One is the idea of a sort of an oscillating universe that goes through an infinite number of cycles, big bangs followed by so-called big crunches. Another one is called the parallel worlds theory, the idea that you've got all these worlds that exist kind of parallel to each other. But notice one of the features of parallel lines, they never meet. And so if you have these universes, they would not be in any contact with each other. And in fact, they couldn't be. Why? Because the laws that cover them, that describe them, are not the same. They're different types of laws. Now, all of this is kind of interesting. It's very imaginative. It's clearly permeated, made its way into popular culture. There are now so many Netflix specials and movies about alternative universes and with certain forms of time travel, or some in which supposedly time operates in a different kind of dimension. But like with all scientific theories, we've got to step back for a moment and go, what is one piece of empirical evidence that you can point to that suggests that there is even one other universe. Forget about multiple universes. Forget about an infinity of universes. Show me the empirical proof or even an empirical suggestion that there are universes, even one, other than our own. And in fact, the best scientists admit that there is no such empirical evidence. Here is Steven Weinberg, a Nobel laureate in physics. These are very speculative ideas without any, I emphasize, any empirical support. Here is physicist Lee Smolin of Princeton. He calls the idea of multiple universes, quote, a fantasy. He calls it, quote, possibly false clues that only seem to have something to do with each other. There is every chance that these ideas will not succeed. And so you have scientists at the outset admitting that the idea of multiple universes doesn't really exist in empirical reality. It seems to exist only in the mind.